So here we're practicing our area, perimeter, circumference of our basic shapes. In example 1, it says the inbounds portion of a singles tennis court is shown. Find its perimeter and area. So the labels here are the 27 is labeling this width and the 78 is labeling the whole entire length of the court. It's the lines in there can be a little bit confusing, but the 78 is the whole thing there. So we are finding the perimeter and the area. So for the perimeter here, you're just going to either add up all the sides or do 2 times the width and 2 times the length. And we end up with a perimeter of 210. And since our measurement says feet here, we have to have the units on there. So this is our perimeter. And then we're going to find our area. The area comes from length times width, so, or width times length, it doesn't matter the order there. So 78 times 27 to get our area, which is 2,106 feet squared, because it's area, so it's feet squared. Part B says if the width of the inbounds rectangle increased by 36 for doubles, what would the perimeter and area be? This means that the width here, this 27, needs to increase by 36. This would give us a new width of 63. We're going to keep the same length, which was 78, but we're now going to have a width of 63 on our rectangle. So they want the perimeter, 2 times the 63 plus 2 times the 78 gives us our perimeter of 282 feet. Since it's perimeter, just feet there, not feet squared. For area, 63 times 78, length times width there, is going to be 4,914 feet squared. So we have our perimeter and our area if they doubled the width. In example 2 here, we have a circle. They gave us that the radius is 2.45. We want the exact area and circumference of the circle for the first part here, and then we want to give the area and circumference to the nearest thousandths place. Okay, so for the exact answer, that means you're going to leave your answer in terms of pi. So for circumference, it's going to be 2 pi times the radius, 2.45. Exact answer, it'll have a number and then pi, so we're going to do 2 times the 2.45 and get 4.9. And then we didn't put pi into our, formulating yet, so pi is still there. So it's 4.9 pi meters for our circumference. This is an exact answer. Since pi is an irrational number, anytime you want to write it down or something times it, you end up cutting numbers off and estimating. So the exact answer is to leave it in terms of pi. The area is pi r squared. So pi times 2.45 squared. So when we square 2.45, we get 6.0025. Don't cut any of that off. And then pi. If we cut any of those decimals off, it would no longer be an exact answer. So this is our exact answer for our area. Now, if we want to give these to the nearest thousandths place, thousandths place means 3 places after the decimal point when we write these down. So for the circumference, we're going to do 4.9 times pi, and I'm using the pi button in the calculator. In our calculators here at school, It's above what we call the caret button. I'll push the blue second key and the caret button, which is right above the divide key. And when I type that in, I get 15.3938. So if I want to do 3 decimal places, it's going to be 394 meters for circumference there. And for the area, 6.0025 times pi is 18.8574, so 18.857 meters squared for the area to the thousandth place. So being careful where we're rounding. So remember that an exact answer has pi in it, or if we're using something with a square root, has a square root in it. And rounding to the thousandth place is when we type it into the calculator and round it. This question is about a triangle, and they're having us plot it on a coordinate grid. They gave us the vertices of 1, 6, 1, 2, 3, 6 for J, 6, 6 for K, and L is at 3, 2. Now you could use the distance formula to find the lengths of the sides if they're not horizontal or vertical, or you could use the Pythagorean theorem if you want to draw it, the little right triangle stair steps into the picture. I'm going to use Pythagorean theorem here. So there's going to be the stair steps for that one, and the stair steps for this one I'll do in pink. Now if they tell you to use Pythagorean or to use the distance formula, then don't do Pythagorean theorem and do the distance formula. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Whenever I have a graph, it's just quicker to do the Pythagorean theorem here. So JK, I was able to count because it's perfectly horizontal, so I was able to count spaces there. It's 5 spaces across. The green right triangle here to find JL has a base here of 2, and this side 1, 2, 3, 4. So I can do the Pythagorean theorem here with 4 and 2 for the sides. So to find JL, what I'm doing is the square root of 4 squared and 2 squared, because this is a squared plus b squared equals c squared, but to get c, you square root it. And this is basically what the distance formula would be if I simplified it for this problem. So that gives me 16 and 4, which is the square root of 20, and it says to do an exact and an approximate, so I need to simplify this radical here. 4 and 5, 4 is 2 and 2. Pair of 2's only 5, 2 root 5 for JL. So JL is 2 root 5. I know that JK is 5, and to find LK here, 1, 2, 3 across right there, 1, 2, 3, 4. If any of you know any of your Pythagorean triples, this is one that I highly suggest you memorize, and it's my favorite Pythagorean triple. A squared would be 3 squared, as I write cubed, 3 squared, plus b squared would be 4, so 4 squared there, and then we square root to get c. So Pythagorean theorem, also simplified distance formula here, so this is going to be 9 and 16, which is the square root of 25, which you should know is 5. So this is one of our Pythagorean triples. That means a set of whole numbers that are the sides of a right triangle. And it's super easy to remember 3, 4, 5. So this side is 5 as well as that side, but the other side was 2 square root 5. So to do the perimeter here in exact form, we need to add together 5 plus 5 plus 2 root 5. And so to simplify these, we can combine the 5 and the 5 and then just say that the perimeter equals 10 plus 2 square root 5. If we want to approximate this to the nearest tenth, the tenths place would be one number after the decimal point. You can, I did 2 root 5 in the calculator, pushed enter, and then added 10 to it, and I got 14.5 for my approximate length. This doesn't have any particular unit measure like centimeters or feet or anything like that, so I won't have any units here, but I am going to put approximately right there.